Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the one thing that's actually exciting me the most, and that's the return to Northrend. Northrend is the setting of The Last Titan, which is the WoW expansion after midnight, and it's going to be a big showdown with our once gods, the Titans. It seems kind of wild. And historically, the last time Northrend was current content, World of Warcraft hit its peak subscriber count of over 12 million, so there's no wonder why Blizzard wants to assault our nostalgia with this expansion, and to do that they confirmed that Northrend will be revamped and will be expanded, so not just a reskin of the thing you know, actually a proper expansion, a proper remake. And the good news today is that by now we know much of what that expansion will look like. So my mission today is to take you through the colossal A-plot that will see us thrown into the heart of a civil war between the Titans, their keepers, and every one of their servants on Azeroth. This stuff is truly massive, so let's get stuck in. We know the Titans, last seen during Legion, will return. Azeroth is basically the key to their plans of ordering the entire universe. She's powerful enough to fend off any threat, so for the Titans, she is absolutely everything. And for this expansion, she is the inciting incident, and that's because of this guy, Iridikron. Long story short, the Titans aren't bad per se, they're not evil per se, but if your goals get in the way of their goals, they'll obviously end you, a little bit like us destroying an anthill to build a motorway. That's actually why Algalon tried to wipe Azeroth clean last time we were in Northrend. That's literally what Algalon would have done if we lost that fight. Now the upshot of all of that basically was control. Control of everything by the Titans to serve their plans. As an example, the elements, right? The elementals were bound, histories were fiddled with, and many threats were eliminated. And eventually, many dragons ended up allying with the Titans' earthly servants, who we call the Keepers. Magical tomfoolery had dragons go from looking like this, their original form, to looking like this. And our guy Iridikron was absolutely not a fan. And that's why, after he failed in a rebellion and after a 20,000-year stint in jail, he is now hell-bent on ending the Titans. And he actually told us exactly how he plans to do it.
With this, the Harbinger will pry it from their grasp. And when the Titans come to reclaim their prize, I will be waiting.
Yeah, with that vocal performance, it's fair to say that he's kinda pissed. Now, the deal that he struck with Xal'atath led us into the War Within expansion, and it very much seems that Xal'atath's void antics are going to lead us into the Midnight expansion. That's an expansion focused around the clash of light and void, all around the Sunwell, which was a major part of the Burning Crusade expansion and Warcraft lore as a whole. And insofar as Midnight's details go, obviously only Blizzard staff will know exactly what's going to happen. But what we do know is that Iridikron is counting on the events of Midnight to force the Titans to return. That's what will lead us to The Last Titan and to Northrend. So big picture, if we're talking about bosses that'll end raid tiers, I'd say Iridikron and Aman'Thul are probably guys we'll fight in The Last Titan. Azeroth will almost certainly wake up as well, but that's actually not the whole story. I'll get to Nerubian's Death Knights and Ice Crowns soon. This is actually a whole series of videos, but first, there's a whole other side to this conflict, the Civil War, what's going to happen between the Titan forces. We aren't just speculating about the big picture, we really do know. All of that business over a decade ago with Algalon was rather sus, but now Blizzard have properly established not only why Algalon acted like that, they've even established internal conflict at every level of Titan activity, from the lowest Earthen through to the actual Titans themselves. I'll start at the lowest level. So, part 1, let's talk about the Earthen. Their histories were rewritten and cleaned by Titan servants. They were seen overtly as disposable labor, not really beings with agency. By now, of course, in the story, these Earthen have got first-hand evidence of what it's like to not drink the Titan Kool-Aid. That's been a major plot in the War Within. And of course, this tension could spark war on Northrend. Just take a look at Northrend and remember, you have the Iron Dwarves, you have the Frostborn, you even have the Iron Vrykul. Northrend is full of Titan constructs, and breaking down their old mythos mythos is something we're exploring right now. Not all of them are loyal to the Titans, some of them are even primed to fight each other. Take as an example the Iron Dwarves and the Frost Giants, who are, as we speak, at war. But let's move from these Earthen, let's take it up a step and talk to their manager, their bosses, the Titan Keepers. Part 1 was the Earthen, Part 2 is the Keepers. Here's one of them, he's called Tyr, and he is an absolute lad. He was brave, he was questioning, and by the end, he nobly sacrificed himself. One of the real legends of the Warcraft mythos, very, very important to the Vrykul and even to humanity. He was also responsible for much of the dragon stuff that Iridikron hated. He was just, doing the stuff that his side was doing. But from what we can piece together, it's fair to assume that he will side with mortals. That's because in Dragonflight, we actually restored his body. We then basically put a memory disk into his body, and basically, he's kind of back now. And at the end of his Dragonflight story, he essentially said the world has changed and he needs to observe it, to take a look, actually get a grip with the place. Of course then, in the War Within, we then found the secret recordings of one of Tyr's old allies, the Titan Keeper, Arcadis. And they're really odd recordings, right? Because at first, they are the reports of a loyal Titan servant. But by the end of the reports, he's sharing secrets. And he even says in the reports that he knows he shouldn't share these secrets, yet he feels compelled to, and therefore he's going to. That's already suspicious, but what makes it more suspicious is that they are not pleasant secrets. We learn how the Titan machinery of Azeroth is designed to turn her into a Titan, how they built a prison-like thing called the World Core around her, and how she even tried to fight back. And much, much more, let's just say, compromising information. And it's also top secret information. It's the kind of information that Tyr actually would not have known about. So, should the newly restored Tyr, once he's, taken a look at the place, then find the secret messages of his old ally, which by now are not a secret because we've literally looked at them, well, then he'll get a full picture of the Titan's plan. The whole plan he was basically a cog in. And I think that will actually make his turn against the Titans all but assured by the end. But that does actually beg another question. What of the other keepers? There are loads of them! In total, 6 keepers are alive. Tyr is one of them, Odin is another, and the other 4 live in Northrend. They are Freya, Hodir, Mimiron, and Thorim. And where today's video gets more interesting than I reckoned is how they're actually set for conflict. Long ago, when Tyr sacrificed himself, he was doing so to thwart an old god plan that, by the time he acted, Freya, Hodir, Mimiron, and Thorim had all fallen to. Now, Tyr did that alongside Arcadis. Yeah, basically those guys are tight. So when Tyr meets those keepers in The Last Titan and then recounts the secret logs of his ally Arcadis, I think those keepers would be primed to actually trust him. He's actually got a good track record of being right and acting nobly. So that's the Northrend keepers covered, but then obviously there is Odin. I think we know by now that Odin will fully be on Team Aman'Thul, Team Titan. He's been batting for the Titans version of history long after they left Azeroth. We found loads of documents about that in Ulduar. As an example, take a look at this. This is The Old Gods and the Ordering of Azeroth. It is an old lore book, and it's essentially pure Odin-driven propaganda about Aman'Thul being top dog. It leaves a lot of things that matter out. But of course, The War Within is telling us that these things are not what they seem. And while that set of 4 Northrend keepers I think will have a bias towards Tyr, well, not completely. As an example, another one of the keepers, Hodir, who was one of the Northrend 4, he actually pledged himself personally to Odin after the Valjar, who are basically Odin's kind of like Valhalla Viking Vrykul dudes, saved him from the Burning Legion. So if that was to be the case, then 2 of our keepers are essentially guaranteed as Team Titan. Looking around the others, well, Thorim, if we believe the Bronzebeard's account from exploring Azeroth, has basically lost his mind. He could be an easy mark, not exactly sure. Which basically means once we do the final maths, you have Tyr and Arcadis on one side, you have Odin and Hodir on the other side, you have Thorim a little bit lost to madness, Ra, of course, is dead, and then there is Mimiron. perhaps he'll just be too busy tinkering to care, so let's just call him a wildcard. And that leaves only Freya. Freya, I think, will almost certainly be on our side, because she leads us to the biggest rift in this brewing civil war. When I say big, I mean the big one. This is the rift within the Titan Pantheon. Part 1 was the lowliest Titan servant. Part 2 was their keepers, their lieutenants in Azeroth. Part 3, then, is the Titans themselves. In the Dragonflight expansion, we learned that the Titan Aenar planted a special world tree that was given to her by Elune, but that Aman'Thul cruelly destroyed it, and when he did, she was devastated. Now that is a clear point of friction within the Titan Pantheon, and I think it's rather clear there is something up with Aenar. She is the only Titan soul to have escaped the Legion. Remember how in the Antorus raid we had to save the other Titan souls from, basically a fun little torture chamber they were in, but we actually found Aenar hiding out on a world called Elunaria. Obviously, there's a connection with Elune. She had a deep personal relationship with Elune herself, and if you take a look back at the oldest Tauren myths, we believe that Elune was a child of Azeroth's Worldsoul. That may sound strange, but in the depths of the Worldsoul Saga, this stuff is really kind of becoming literal, because these big unknowable things are, well, becoming forces within the world. So, Aenar, through Elune, seems to have known the truth of the Worldsoul, maybe more than Aman'Thul let on. And of course, she was very close to Elune. So close, in fact, that she was able to hide out on Elunaria. If you string that all together, it's clear then that what Aenar wants is basically what's best for the Worldsoul. I mean, she's got a deep personal relationship with a being we believe to be a child of the Worldsoul, Elune, and that's based off the Tauren myths. That means she will feel conflicted. Remember, Aman'Thul ripped out that world tree and he boomed, "This is not order," because he saw that world tree that Aenar probably just put there to help heal the world. He saw that as, well, danger. It's the forces of life. It's a weed, a root somehow able to crack a footpath, crack a road, and that has no place in his plan. That, then, is a very, very clear battle line. So, let me bring this all together into a legendary place, and that place is Ulduar. One thing you may not have known is that a Titan highway once divided Azeroth north to south, but the highway was destroyed in the Sundering. Of course, you can actually follow it north to Wyrmrest, that's present on Northrend, and then when you keep following it, you go into the Storm Peaks, and finally it brings you to this place, Ulduar. This was the seat of Titan power on Azeroth. It's where the Keepers ruled over the whole world, and since those most ancient times, it's been used as a prison and in a way is a little bit mothballed. For example, a whole wing of Ulduar was shot up into the sky whenever Odin rage quit. It's a story for another day, but yes, you know the whole Halls of Valor? That used to be a wing of Ulduar. But Ulduar is important, it still holds power, and it's likely one of the reasons why we're going back to Northrend. Because when Aman'Thul returns to, as Heridikron told us, reclaim what he believes is his, he will return to his seat of power. That is Ulduar. That is Northrend. And when he does, we can expect that the forges will light, and that legions of Titan Forged will flood Azeroth. Of course, if Xal'atath gets her way, the Void will be on top, so the Titans will be fighting whatever they manage to spawn from the Sunwell at the end of the Midnight expansion. But once everything's settled and that immediate threat is dealt with, we'll all just be standing there looking at each other, knowing that, well, the Titans have plans for our home. That means he'll be facing off against us, a group who, essentially, are the children of Azeroth, and even within his own pantheon, if we're to believe the Tauren myth, Elune is also a child of Azeroth. Elune that has a connection with Aenar, someone in Aman'Thul's pantheon. That means that it's not just us versus the Titans, no, there will be Titans fighting Titans. And when all this happens, we will step up, we'll return to Ulduar, and I suspect we will do what we do best, do a big raid boss in some sort of giant epic fashion. Perhaps Sargeras will return, perhaps Illidan will return, but what it will do is close a huge loop. A loop opened by Algalon back in Wrath of the Lich King. Basically, that threat from the Titans will finally way over a decade later, almost 2 decades later, be paid off. And we can only speculate as to what Azeroth will look like after that. If I was Blizzard, I would probably say it's time for a world revamp. But if you want to know more about what Northrend will look like in The Last Titan, and trust me, there's way more than just the A-plot, check out this video next. It's the first in this series. It's about the return of the Scourge, because the Scourge are back in a major way. And keep an eye on the channel, we'll have a full zone-by-zone deep dive in Northrend very soon.